Hi, my name's Jason from Getaway RV, and it's that time of year again where it's time to winterize your RV. So I'm going to walk you through on a brand new Apex trailer and show you how to do it. So one of the first things you want to do is make sure all of your holding tanks are drained. So that would be the black water, the gray water, and the fresh water. So normally for you guys, you're going to have used your holding tank already. So you're going to have to do the holding tank at a sani station. For us, this is a brand new trailer. So you just want to take the cap off, which is a little bit stiff here. And you're going to pull the black valve first and let any waste flush out, and then afterwards you can close the black valve and then pull the gray valve, and once it's all emptied out, just close that back up again, put your cap back on. And next we want to drain the low point drains. So I'm just going to grab something here to lay on underneath the trailer. So underneath the trailer, we've got two lines right here, and we're just going to simply take those plugs out. And it's not going to drain for very long. Okay, so that's the low points. Once they have fully drained out, you want to make sure that you put those plugs back in, because if you don't put the plugs back in and you start putting the antifreeze through the system, it's all going to pump out right out of those low points. Okay. So next you want to drain your freshwater tank. So I'm underneath the trailer here. I found the drain for the freshwater tank, which is just a plug. Usually you don't need any tools for this, you can just do it by hand. So you're just going to unthread that plug, and there you go. You're just going to let the water tank drain out. Once the freshwater tank is drained, you could leave the plug out for the winter time, but it's probably better just to put it back in just so you don't get any bugs or insects crawling inside there. So next we're going to drain the hot water heater. So in this case it is a Suburban water heater. It is an 1.16" socket. If you have an Atwood water heater, it's a 15/16 socket with an extension. So what I want to do before I take the plug out is I want to alleviate the pressure on the hot water heater. So I'm just going to go inside and I'm going to open up the hot tap in the kitchen. Alright, so we've got the hot tap open inside to alleviate pressure. We're going to put our socket with an extension in here and we're going to loosen it up. And that is our anode rod. In this case, the water heater was already drained. But that is what a brand new anode rod looks like. Yours is going to look a little more grungy. It's going to look corroded. We get a lot of people coming in and asking if they should replace their anode rod just because it does look all grungy. There's actually a center pin on the anode rod, and once it wears down to that center pin, then it's time to replace it. So if you're unsure, just bring the anode rod into our parts department. We can take a look at it for you and let you know whether you need to replace it or whether it's good for another year. One other thing I'll just mention, as far as Suburban's recommendations, the anode rod should actually be left out, not put back in over the winter. What you could do if you did want to plug it to stop any bugs or insects from getting in there is you could put a plastic plug inside there as a temporary measure just over the winter time to stop anything from getting in. But as I said, as far as the factory recommendations, you would not put the anode back in over the winter for storage. So we're inside the trailer now. So just to recap, we've drained your black and your gray, we've drained the freshwater tank, and we've drained the hot water heater. We don't need to get antifreeze into the actual holding tanks themselves. Once those tanks are drained, there's lots of room for expansion. So if you can imagine, you've got a holding tank or a freshwater tank, even if there's a little bit of water trapped inside those tanks, if it freezes, there's lots of room for expansion and nothing is going to get damaged. Where damage can occur is the water lines inside the trailer themselves, the plumbing lines running to your sinks and your toilet and your showers, etc. There's absolutely no room for expansion in those lines, so if they freeze, they're going to crack, and that's why we want to put the RV non-toxic antifreeze through the system. We do that from the water pump. So a lot of people call in and saying, hey, I've got such and such a model and where's my water pump? There is so many different models out there that I have no idea offhand where your particular pump is without actually going into the trailer. So usually we'll go inside, we'll turn the pump on, and we'll just listen for it, and that'll tell us where the pump is located roughly, and sometimes you may have to take a panel off or lift up the dinette cushions or underneath the bed, and that's where it'll be. In this particular case, it's in this cupboard here. And there was a shelf inside here that was blocking it, and we just have to take one screw out and lift that shelf out. And we can actually see the water pump is inside. Pause. So as you can see by inside of the cabinet there's really not a whole lot of access. So I did just grab a display pump just to show you the kind of principle, and then we're actually going to do this because we do need to winterize this trailer because there is some water in the system. So your pump has a suction side and it has a feed side where it actually feeds all of the taps, faucets, etc. So what you need to do is disconnect this side, because this is the side where it actually sucks from the freshwater tank, and you can actually buy this hose in our parts department. So what we're actually doing is we're threading this onto the pump. And then once we've done that, we're going to put the other end into the jug of antifreeze. And then when we turn the pump on, instead of sucking from the freshwater tank, it's now going to suck from your jug. So by the time you're done here, you're probably going to use 2 jugs of antifreeze, 1.5 to 2 jugs normally. On some of the bigger units, Class A's, you may use a little bit more. Okay, so it's nice to have a rag handy because you may get a little bit of water dripping onto the floor when you disconnect the line. So I'm going to reach in here, and again, you normally don't need tools. Normally it can be done by hand. You might need to help it along with the wrench, but you do have to be very careful because the lines are plastic, and you certainly don't want to break anything there. So just be cautious if you are going to put any type of a wrench on there. Otherwise, you should be able to just do it by hand. Okay, so that line from the pump is now disconnected, and I'm going to thread our hose onto the water pump so we can suck the antifreeze through the system. Okay, so you can see that we've got our line connected to the pump, and we're going to take the other end of the line and we're going to put it into a jug of antifreeze. Now, before we hit that pump switch and start running antifreeze through the system, we do need to do one more thing. We need to bypass the hot water heater. In most cases, the water heaters are a 6-gallon tank. In some cases, they're a 10-gallon, but the majority, it's going to be a 6. You don't want to put antifreeze into the hot water heater, and the reason for that is simply if you don't bypass the water heater, instead of using 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of antifreeze, you're going to use 8 gallons, because before it can feed the system, it's going to fill up that water heater. Okay, so we are at the back of the hot water heater. To locate the back of the hot water heater, just make a note of where the water heater is on the outside, and then you need to find that exact opposing spot on the inside to gain access. In this case, it was actually underneath the bed. There was about 5 screws that needed to be removed. The bed panel needed to be removed in order to gain proper access so we can actually get in here and work. So in this particular instance right now, it has a 2-valve bypass system. The bottom line is the cold water that flows into the hot water heater, and the top line is the hot water that feeds the system. You have to be very careful knowing the valve configuration. So currently what happens is the cold water flows up to here, and it can't go around the bypass loop, so it flows up to here, goes into the hot water heater, flows out the system, and feeds all of your plumbing. So what you need to do is you need to open the bottom valve and open the top valve. So what happens now is when you go to put the antifreeze through the system, the antifreeze can't get into the hot water heater. It'll flow through the bypass tube and feed the system without going into the hot water heater. Okay, so we're going to turn the pump on, which is located in the bathroom in this unit, and we are going to run absolutely everything. So we can start here in the kitchen, and we're running the hot side. Let it run for maybe 2 or 3 seconds once it's coming through. Close it, and then run the cold side as well. You need to make sure it's coming through not just the hot line, but the cold line. There is our kitchen done. Then we can go into our bathroom. I'm actually just going to get another jug of antifreeze. A little bit of a spill. Okay, and we are going to open up the hot tap in the bathroom, running through, close it, run the cold tap until it's running through. Now, a lot of people forget to flush the toilet, so make sure you do flush the toilet until you get antifreeze running through. And then into the shower, you want to run the hot tap, run the cold tap, and the part that everybody forgets is the shower head, so make sure you run the shower head as well. Okay, so this unit also has an outside shower on it, so we want to make sure that we run that as well. So we're going to go outside for a second. So outside shower, hot sides, and run the cold side until it's coming through. All right, perfect. Okay, you want to pour about a cupful down each of the traps. So just down the drains. Make sure you get lots in there, into the bathroom as well. Down the sink drain. Whoops. Down the sink drain in the bathroom. I'm sure we got some in there when we were putting it through the system anyway, but I just like to go that extra mile. All right. Okay, so the antifreeze does potentially stain a little bit, so make sure that you do go around just with a rag and just mop out the sink and the bathtub and everything. Just make sure you get it all out of there, even the toilets. And once you're done mopping it out, just go back a day later, because sometimes you might get the odd drip in there, and just do it again. Just give a quick wipe out. And One more thing, I'm going to take you outside. The very last thing is the city water hookup. So we'll go out there and take a look at that. So on the outside of the trailer, you have your city water connection. We just want to make sure that line actually does get some antifreeze in it. So if you look carefully, it's got a little screen on it. There's a little O-ring on the outside, so you just want to carefully take that out. And it can be a little finicky trying to get that out. Oh, there we go. And inside there is a check valve. And just very carefully, very gently, just push in on that check valve. And you'll just get a little bit of antifreeze trickle down that line. I can just feel it touching my finger. And that's really all you got to do. You want to do that with the pump in the off position, because if you do push in on that check valve with the pump on, it will spit antifreeze right out at you. And that is it. So now it's just a matter of putting things back together. We're going to reconnect the pump. And as far as the bypass kit on the hot water heater, I'm just going to leave that in the bypass position. What we like to do in the springtime is get the antifreeze flushed all out of the system. Once we've got the antifreeze all flushed out of the system, then we'll put that bypass kit back in its normal flow position. Alright, so that again, Jason from Getaway RV, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we're always happy to talk to people. Come on in and talk to our service or parts department, and we're happy to get you set up with all of your winterizing needs. If you found this was too complicated and you don't want to do it yourself, we're happy to do it for you as well. So thank you very much.